The end of your homeschool year brings celebrations and selling old curriculum and giving your space a good clean. But if you have a high school student, there's a few more things you need to do, and here's why. If you give me a deadline, I am going to meet it, but with seconds to spare. And that's the short version of why I spent about 2 weeks in November 2021 with my fingers glued to the computer, getting everything ready so that Elizabeth could submit her college applications. If I had stayed on track as I had planned and did everything each summer after her high school year, I would have spent far less time and it would have been far less stressful. So I want you to not be like me. I want you to do better. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The first one applies to all high school students. Your kiddo is going to need a transcript. And a transcript is essentially a report card. You're going to go either year by year or by subject. Usually they're organized by year. You're going to list the title of each class, not their curriculum, not extracurricular activities, not volunteering, just their classes. You're going to list the title of their class, English 1, World History, Spanish 1, however many credits they earned, usually 1 credit for a core class and half credit for an elective, and then their grade. And at the bottom of that section, you're going to put their GPA for the year. That's it. See, that's not too hard, right? If you haven't started a transcript yet, I have a free template that you can use. I'll give you the link. You'll make a copy of it and start filling in your kiddo's information. It's simple, easy to use, or take it and give it let it inspire you to create your own. A transcript is not difficult. Whether your kiddo is going to college or a trade school or work, whatever they're going to do after high school, you need this as a record of what they did. Now, if you have a kiddo who is college bound, that college may want course descriptions. What is a course description? It's basically a paragraph listing what they studied, what the topic was, what kinds of materials you used, how you evaluated them, and what were the big topics, the scope and sequence, as they say, that they covered. So if it was chemistry, it would be all those subtopics in chemistry, or algebra, all the little subtopics, generally like the chapter headings. That's what you're going to put in there. A paragraph may be a little bit longer, maybe a long paragraph, but colleges are not reading these word for word. One of my friends, when she was writing hers, she submitted it to me to check over, and each of her course descriptions was 3 pages long. No college is going to read 4 years worth of 5 to 8 classes of 3 pages each. They're not going to do it. Do not make this more complicated than it needs to be. But not all colleges want course descriptions. But to know that, you have to ask the colleges, and to know what colleges to ask, your kiddo has to have some idea of where they want to go. So at the very least, I want you this summer to write down the course that they took, make a note of the curriculum they used. If they took it with an online provider or an in-person class, make a note of where they took it so that if you need to reference back, you can. And that's probably good enough for now. Then if you do need to make course descriptions, you have a really good guideline for it. Now, if your kiddo has taken it through an online provider or an in-person, even at the community college, I just copied and pasted what they used as their descriptions, made it sound a little more like I was writing it, and then that was it. Again, do not make this more complicated than it needs to be. But the better your notes are now, the easier it's going to be so that you're not scrambling last minute like I was if your kiddo does need it. Task number 3, is your teen taking the SAT or ACT in the next year or two? If they're taking it next year, you need to go ahead and look at what the testing dates are, sign-up dates, any information you need, and get that on your calendar. If they're taking it the following year, do you need to do any in-person classes, online classes to help them prep for it? And if so, start doing some research now, asking local parents, See what's available so that you're not waiting until the last minute to get this booked. Speaking of testing, is your teen taking any AP courses and the tests next year? If they need to sit for an AP test, I beg you to go ahead and start finding out what schools will let you do that. Not all of them will. And you do not want to be going through the AP course and then go to do sign up, which I think is in November each year, only to find out that there's no place locally that you can do a test. It doesn't mean that you're committing to doing the testing at this location, but you've got the information. Same with the SAT and ACT courses or the classes. Doing the research now just means that you don't have to wait until the last minute, scramble to find the information, and then make a last minute under the pressure decision. Same with CLEP tests. If your kiddo is taking a CLEP test next year, or hopes to, hop on the College Board's website and find out where the CLEP testing locations are near you. Check out their hours, see if there's any special details that you need to know. Number 5, while I have heard stories of colleges wanting to see samples of your students' work, I have never actually heard someone say that a college wanted to see their students' work. But what if they do? I would, right now, or at the end of this year, grab a few samples of a few different types of work, if you have it, and save it. Put it in a file, grab your phone and take pictures of it to scan it in, whatever you need to do to save it. Most likely, you're just going to be tossing it in the recycle bin after their senior year. But if you need it, if a college wants you to prove what they've done, then you've got it ready. This could be as simple as grabbing a couple pieces of writing from English, a lab report from science, a couple tests from math. But having those samples now just means that later on, you're not scrambling. And that's the name of the game if you can't tell. We don't want to be scrambling later on because I know how stressful that is. Not only on you, but on your student while they're waiting for mom to get her act together. When Elizabeth was submitting her applications through the Common App, there was a section to list activities. And it was surprisingly hard for us to remember what activities and volunteer work she had done throughout high school. You wouldn't think that's only a few years, and one of those was with COVID. But still, it was difficult. So, again, while it's fresh in your memory, grab a sheet of paper from your planner or wherever, Google Doc, and list some of those activities that your kiddos did. Did they have a special volunteer day that they did? What did they do through the church, through your community? Sports did they play? And not only that, but jot down any contact information for the adult in charge. Because if any of those were good ones that might write a good reference letter later, you want that information. Now, those don't usually get asked for until like the summer before your kiddo's senior year, but having that information now gives you the memory of what they did and who they did it with in case you need to ask them later on. And if you have a kiddo who's graduating this year, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Hats off. You're amazing. This last one is for you. 1, have you sent in their updated transcript to their college if they're going? Usually they want this in like February or March. Elizabeth's school never asked for one. I did send it in like June when I remembered. But you do want to send that in at least with all of their first semester grades if they didn't already have that. So that's number 1. The last 2 are really combined, and it's dealing with or preventing having to fight with bureaucracy. Ordering a diploma, yes, from just an online place where they send something that looks official, and having a couple of your copies of your transcripts notarized should be on your list to consider. Am I telling you that you have to do this? No. Is anyone probably ever going to ask? No. But if you have a kiddo who at some point in the next 5 or 10 years, probably maybe even longer, needs to be able to prove their education, and whoever they're doing this with wants to see like a physical diploma or a notarized copy of the transcript, then you've got it taken care of. It is worth the $50 now to get both of those taken care of. Less than that if you're only going to do one. And then you don't have to do it last minute later on if you need to. Your kiddo isn't trying to scramble and find where it is. You don't have to scramble and remember where you put it back when you were still a homeschool mom. Again, you're probably never going to need them. But if you do, then you have them. At the very least, though, I would take your transcripts, print off a couple, and distribute them. My daughter has a couple of copies. We have a couple of copies in our fire safe box. My mom has a copy at her home, so that if something happens, we've got it. Because again, we don't want to be scrambling last minute in high stress situations to find this stuff. Now, if you're ready to dig in to more about high school, the ins and outs and records, and if you want more details about some of these records that I've talked about, like transcripts and course descriptions, check out the playlists on your screen, and I will see you over there.